Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Rise podcast, where we connect with inspiring and motivational guests to hear their experiences in developing their resiliency, identity, strength, and empowerment. I'm your host, Aaliyah Miller, and our guest today is Daryl Arora. Daryl is a former elite level gymnast, a three-time national champion, and a Penn State gymnastics alum. She's also a former powerlifting record holder in the bench press and deadlift. She earned her master's degree in occupational therapy, where she currently specializes in pediatrics. Daryl is a mother of two young girls, a dog mom, and a lover of fitness. Welcome, Daryl. Thanks for coming on the show today. How are
Yeah,
you?
thank you so much. I'm doing great. It's an honor, to be on the show and kind of get away from talking to toddlers all day and be able to talk to an adult.
I love it.
Little
So,
change of pace.
yeah, actually carrying on a conversation. Um,
Exactly.
so, speaking of, can you kind of tell us a little bit more about what pediatric occupational therapy is and what exactly it is that you do?
Absolutely. So actually, April is OT month. So this is a great time to be able to advocate for our profession. Well, occupational therapy, it's a healthcare profession. We've really focused on the function of daily activities. So whereas we always compare to physical therapy because everybody knows what physical therapy is, and occupational therapy always gets lost within there. But physical therapy works on, the strength and range of motion and pain management, things like that, where we work on those things too, but we work on them with the function of actual daily activities. So getting dressed, brushing your teeth, toileting, bathing, all of those activities. So in pediatrics, I focus on what are the things, what are the skills that children do from birth to really high school age, but I kind of focus on the younger children. So dressing skills, play skills, sensory integration. Some kids have some sensory issues, some noises are too loud. In different environments, they have a difficult time participating with other children. Some OTs work in school based where they help with fine motor skills like cutting, handwriting, grasp, all things like that. Where I focus on, I work in more of that early intervention. So that's like birth to age 3, which are like the golden years of development, where I work on the developmental milestones. Are kids meeting the milestones? Is it because of a underlying disability? Is it maybe they were premature? Maybe something within the environment. Maybe they don't have access to certain materials that can help them develop a little quicker. So I go into the home and work with the families and do a lot of parent coaching and things like that to talk about the importance of tummy time and give them different tools, maybe even provide them with some materials or um, give them examples of some toys and things that could help with their children and their development. So just think
Okay.
OT, function of daily activities that we all take
Okay.
for granted.
Interesting. And is
Yeah.
that something that, like, how does a kid or how does a parent decide that their kid needs occupational therapy? Is it something that anybody can do, or is it just like certain things that identify, hey, we need to get an OT in here? How does that work?
Great question. So, in that 0 to 3 population, that's like I said, early intervention, you can contact your state's health department. Typically, parents will notice, when they go to their pediatrician, there's always a checklist of developmental milestones. Are they hitting this? Are they sitting? Are they crawling? Are they bringing toys to their mouth, for example? Those are some things. If there are red flags, typically a pediatrician would say, maybe if it's something more physical, they're not walking, things like that, maybe we'll go more towards the physical therapy route. If they're not playing appropriately with different toys or they're having difficulty with feeding skills, maybe bringing a cup to their mouth, or they are very picky eaters, things like that, OT would be notified. So it's
Okay.
really, it's all about education.
Okay.
So parents, a pediatrician should be educating parents on, the different areas, whether they need speech therapy or PT or OT. And in the school, if beyond age 3, if they're in the school environment, teachers are really, most of the time, but in my experience they have been, very educated on what are those red flags. Like, I have a 7-year-old who's holding a pencil a really funky way, or who's not able to cut, or they're falling out of their chair. They kind of understand what it is that we do. And most of the time there's an OT in the classroom, or not in the classroom, in the school, that they can contact and talk to them about any issues that they're having.
Got it. That makes sense. So
Hmm.
it seems like OT is something that you're very passionate about. Um, can we kind of back up a little bit and can you tell us about
Sure.
maybe like where you come from, what inspired you to go into OT, how you figured out what it is that you're so passionate about?
Absolutely. Well, you're right. I am very passionate about OT. As you'll, get to know me, I put a lot of passion into pretty much everything I do. And that kind of goes into your identity, piece of your podcast, where no matter what I do, I kind of full ass it. I don't half ass it. Sorry, had to
No
use
other way
that
to do it.
analogy, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I grew up in New Jersey and still live here. I started gymnastics at age 6, and that became my identity for a long time. I was a high level, as you mentioned, I was a high level gymnast. I I qualified for elite gymnastics when I was 14. Um, Traveled all over the country on different competitions, and I went to national training camp. I went to the Olympic Training Center, the Caroli camp as well. Through my time, and then earned a scholarship to Penn State, which was my number one school at the time. I had a couple different scholarship offers, but it was close enough to home where I didn't have to fly. I fell in love with Penn State the moment, as you could see, the moment I got there. Um, Everything, I loved the team. I loved the whole atmosphere. So I started training and competing for them. I was a beam and floor specialist. And through that time, on the side, I coached a little bit. I also helped out with the Special Olympics in Pennsylvania. They used to have their competitions and things at the Penn State gym. So we would go, we would help um, bring them around. We would do award ceremonies. We would do some judging as well. So that was, always something that I was interested in. And I even coached, even in club before college. I coached since I was about like 14, just helping out with different classes because I lived in the gym. I was there. I trained 30 hours a week at one time. And because of that, I homeschooled as well between fourth and 10th grade. So I trained in the morning, did school at the gym, and then trained in the evening. And I did that for many years. 7 years I was homeschooled. Um, so talk about passion. I was very passionate for that route, but it was the only way I could, get the training in that I needed. Um, so going back, a little bit. So yeah, so helping out with the Special Olympics. I worked at when I think it was over the summer, when I didn't have to train as hard because we weren't competing then. I worked at a group home, and I helped adults with special needs, again, doing daily activities from the moment they woke up, help them get dressed, help them bathe, help them go to the bathroom, cooked for them, help them feed, did all their medications. And this was all things I did before even applying to OT school. It was just a passion of mine to help other people. Um, Once I graduated from Penn State, I actually met my now husband at Penn State. At sophomore year, we were good friends. And we decided, hey, let's move to California. Let's just let's do it. We have nothing really holding us here. Let's go to California. He wound up opening up a fitness gym. I've mentioned before, he was a strength and conditioning coach and opened up a gym. And I said, all right, I'm going to apply to OT school. No OT schools within, and this is when I lived in Davis, California. No OT schools within the area. The closest one was in the Bay Area. So I wound up getting into one of my schools, and which was one of the only ones I had the choice of going to, and commuted every day it was about a 2-hour drive there and about a 2-hour drive home because of
Every
traffic.
day?
Every day
Oh
I
my
did it. I think our
gosh.
classes were, we think our classes were 4 days a week.
Okay.
And our
Wow.
program was 3 years.
That's
So,
commitment.
it was commitment. It was commitment. I think back now, I don't know how I did it. I did it then, and I don't even know. Like, I can't even like put it around my head how I sat in the car for that long. But I did it. It was the only thing I could do. I will say there were some times if I had finals week, or if I had a few exams during that week, I would actually sleep on a couch of one of my friends. I've stayed in a hotel before just to like be able to be there and not have to spend so much time in the car, waste time, for studying and things like that. But it was the only way I could get it done, and the only school around. So I had to do it. I had to just suck it up and get it done. But I'm getting to the question. I'm getting there. I'm like trying to remember what the question was. But so through coaching, through helping at the group home, I always was very motivated and very inspired by people who just didn't take things for granted. Um, whether it was helping a young kid who I've worked with kids with variety of disabilities, cerebral palsy, autism, um, so many different obstacles that they've had to deal with in their life, and helping them in the gym. It My whole aspect of gymnastics and everything completely changed because seeing them overcome different obstacles. How are you not inspired by things like that? They have the best attitudes. They work hard. They don't let anything that is going on in their life kind of get in their way. They're happy. They're excited. I I didn't even really know what occupational therapy was when I was in college until I started working at the group home. I started, um, helping out at the gym. But all of those things that I did made me go, wow, I've got to, this is something I want to do. What is the job that I can do where I can help children? I can help adults do just daily things that, like I said, we take for granted, and occupational therapy was the track I went on, and I've been passionate about it ever since.
That's really cool that you had so many experiences that you didn't even realize were kind of driving you towards this path that you ended up being so passionate about, and passionate to the point where you were willing to drive 2 hours a day, 4 days a week for 3 years to do it.
Right.
Or I guess 4 hours a
Exactly. I
day,
know.
2 hours one way.
Yes.
But it's really cool when, you know, something like that to a lot of people would seem like, oh, that's an obstacle that I can't overcome. Like 4 hours of driving a day, there's only 24 hours in the day for 3 years, can't do it, not going to happen. But when you realize that you're capable of doing hard things and you're capable of doing challenging things, and amazing things can happen when you just do those hard things, like that's really cool. And seeing people succeed in things like that is really exciting, I think.
Thank you.
um
Yeah. I mean, And, I have to credit like gymnastics and that training for my ability to keep pushing.
Yeah.
I mean, in the beginning, when I first started commuting to school, which I was like, oh my God, I'm crazy. I'm waking up at 5. I'm on the road by like, I think I was on the road by like 6:15, just to beat some traffic. There's no way to beat it all.
There's
But I
always
used to
traffic in the Bay Area.
remember. Always. Oh my God. I used to pass by Napa Valley, which beautiful. I mean, I had the best commute, but yeah, it was a lot. Um, but I used to think like I used to at 6:30 in the morning be on a balance beam and have to do competition like routines and have to be, completely awake and ready to go at that time. So I would think I could be doing that, or I could be sitting in the car listening to music and just, kind of relaxing, looking at the scenery. There's cows on the road, and, there's just a beautiful, beautiful, scene, always sunny, right? Um, so having those tough experiences in college and just within my gymnastics career absolutely prepared me for anything. I and as you mentioned, like many people would say it's just too hard. I'm giving up on this. But for me, I had no choice. If I wanted to do OT and I wanted to stay in California and do these things, this was the only school that I could go to and the only opportunity that I was able to do those things. So for me, I didn't even think twice about it. Now I look back and said, well, I guess I could have, maybe lived somewhere else. I don't know. I had, I was in a serious relationship. I loved our apartment that we were in. We had a dog at the time. That was my family. I wanted to do that. So
Yeah,
I was willing to do whatever it took.
that's awesome. So, going from the transition of, completely focused on gymnastics to now moving into a career in occupational therapy, and I mean, at some point there was powerlifting in between there. um, how did you make that shift? Because you said, gymnastics was your identity for years growing up. And how were you able to kind of make that shift out of gymnastics and into something else without feeling like you were completely losing yourself?
Hmm. Again, great question. And that is something that, I mean, ask any gymnast who, or really athlete who's been in that sport for a long time. They're still battling it. I mean, there's no way to completely take the athlete out of you, and your identity. You're always gonna, have a little bit of that, which led me into powerlifting. I was, my last competition was in 2012. I started training powerlifting within the next year. Um, Luckily, having a now husband who owned a gym, very easy to be able to lift some weights, and get in the gym and do those things. So he was Olympic training certified, he was CrossFit certified, he had all of those things and powerlifting background. He got me into that. He said, I wanted to compete. I was like, what's the next thing I can do where I could compete and travel a little bit, and just have that mentality of training for something, right? So it was a very smooth transition, honestly, for me to go from gymnastics to powerlifting, and a lot of parallels. Like it was very similar training. You got goals. I had to make weight. I had to do all those things. So I was like, had a very rigid routine and had a schedule for my training and all of that, all while I was in OT school. Crazy. But it helped me. I mean, it was something I was used to, balancing school and sport, right? So for me, it was actually a fairly, I don't want to say simple, but it was a smooth transition from gymnastics to powerlifting to OT, because whatever I do, I put my focus into it, and that's, like I said, the only way I've been able to accomplish what I've been able to accomplish is putting that focus into it, and that was the only way. But I do know, I have a lot of friends of mine who it took years for them to find something that they were passionate about. But the amount of friends of mine who have gone into CrossFit, who have gone into other sports, running. I've done 2 Spartan races too. Um, Again, it was like, I hate running, hate it, but I was like, I like the obstacles. I'm good at that part. So I did a sprint and I did the other one that was like a 10K or
Mhm.
something like that. But it was fun. I loved being able to train for something, and that was the part that just couldn't leave me.
Yeah.
So
Just having a purpose for what you were doing, it sounds like.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And with the thing about gymnastics, maybe compared to some of the other sports, is the focus on body image.
Mhm.
And sorry about that. I don't even know how to turn that off, the notification. Um,
You're good.
the focus on body image and strength. And we did some weight training and things when we were in college as well. But you're always focused on having, being in shape and working out. And, we had to get body fat tested, and you're always meeting with a nutritionist and all of those things. So being able to still do those things without the pressure of having to be in a leotard, or, make a, you know, be in a leotard on national TV, and always be kind of, I don't want to say criticized for your weight, but you're always really conscious of
Mhm.
it, because in gymnastics, 2 pounds up or down is going to make a difference in your skills. You just feel that. Whereas in powerlifting, you know you need that strength. You need it. And I was actually in better shape as a powerlifter than I was as a gymnast, just because I took that pressure off of everything I ate had to be like this. I had a better understanding of nutrition and fitness and how to fuel my body versus starve it for, just to be able to do this body fat testing.
Yeah.
All of my friends, we would like joke about, like, oh, what are you going to have after you get your body fat testing, and we would like, that's when we would go crazy, because we would eat nothing the night before, nothing the morning of, didn't drink water or anything, just to get, to be in a certain category for your
Yeah.
body fat testing. And then we go over to the dining halls and get like the biggest bagel sandwich that you ever could. And that's how we did it. But it
Yeah.
was it was when, I started powerlifting and doing just different forms of fitness, that I was actually in better shape. I was happier, and I could make weight and maintain weight so much easier because I wasn't constantly fluctuating.
Yeah. I have, a lot of friends that have gone through various levels of gymnastics, some into college and at that elite level. And I know a lot of former gymnasts struggle a lot with body image and with having a good relationship with food. Um,
Hmm.
and it sounds like powerlifting was such a complete 180 for you that it helped you, not end up in that mindset that a lot of former gymnasts end up in, where even though they're not competing, that's still the only thing they think about. And they still eat and think about food as if they're this, 90-pound gymnast going on
Yep.
national television in a leotard.
Mhm.
Um,
For sure. Yeah. And you see it from a young level, until like through the Olympic level. Like you
yeah.
always see, everybody's constantly looking at your body and in your leotard. I mean, I've had coaches over the years say I couldn't wear shorts or something, just so they can really be able to see, body changes and things like that. So you have this mentality as a gymnast, from a very young age, that you have to look a certain way. I was only 5 foot, so that helped in the height ways. But if you're 5'6", I don't know, like that's going to be really hard for you. And you can completely, even if you're great, things get a little harder when you're taller. that's when maybe you'll transition to something else. But I mean, I have gymnastics has helped me in so many ways in and out of the gym, like I said, it's helped me um, maintain my focus through school and use that, but it's also helped me with powerlifting and all of those things, just having a good strength base, which
Yeah.
is awesome. And I mean, I encourage so many young kids, boys and girls, to do gymnastics. Get into it. It's going to help you in every sport that you do with balance and strength, coordination, bilateral coordination, all of that. So I'm always encouraging, you know, people to try it out, but at the same time, taking a step back and trying not to be so focused on what you look like. And what I like is the sport has changed a lot over the
Mhm.
years, especially with, there's been a lot of controversy in the Olympic arena, and USA Gymnastics has been under the spotlight for years for different
Yeah.
issues I won't get into, but you've seen girls kind of changing a little bit, and you've seen them be able to do these big skills. Nothing better than NCAA, where you change, your body's going to change in college. It really
Yeah.
does, because of your age and everything. So there's been nothing more, exciting to see girls that are different bodies be able to do these skills and nail them. And what a great message that sends to young girls,
Yeah,
you know.
that's really cool. I think it's also kind of shifted in allowing a little bit more personality, I guess. Like, I don't know if you ever saw the videos. I think she was a gymnast from UCLA, and she always had like the cutest routines, so much of her personality in her floor routines. And thinking about somebody doing that, I don't know, 15 years ago, they would have been laughed off the floor and told that they weren't a serious gymnast. And now
Yep.
she was making national news because of it. And that's really
Hmm.
cool. I like that. I like that they're actually being allowed to express themselves now through their sport and through their art. I think that's really cool.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, kudos to UCLA gymnastics. They are like my favorite, Penn State always, but my favorite team to watch. I mean, and their choreography is fantastic, and it's original, and it's just wonderful. But absolutely, I mean, I know who you're talking about, and they have lots of gymnasts who have made, national news for just expressing themselves, not being afraid to. And I mean, that's the goal of college, is to find your identity, right? And
Yeah.
to, burst out of your shell, and to find, to be able to express your personality in especially a floor exercise routine, which is one of the events that I specialized in. But there's no better platform, there's no better stage than on the floor to be able to do that. And but you're right, I've seen an uptick in just overall confidence,
Yeah.
in especially in NCAA, to be able to, express that. And
Yeah.
I
Very
think it's
cool.
great, and I love to see it. I'm always excited. Nationals are, I believe, next week, so I'm
Ooh,
excited to be able to watch the NCAA's
all
and
right.
see all those routines.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So kind of shifting gears a little bit, the kind of spark that had me say, "Ooh, I need to bring Daryl on my podcast." You had posted something on Facebook, and it was a repost, just an image of text, and
Hmm.
it was something along the lines of, if you're ever in doubt, just think like a toddler. And it was, toddlers don't care who's watching. They don't care what they look like. They don't care what other people think. They're just going to do what they want to do and what they love to do, because they just don't care about what other people think. And I saw that and I was like, that is so cool. Like, we all just got to be like toddlers. And I wanted to talk to you about kind of if working with kids has shifted your perspective on things, And because it really does seem like, young kids, they're carefree. They don't realize that the world, whether we like it or not, puts a lot of expectations on people, and we get so wrapped up
Yeah.
in what other people think. And so I kind of want to hear some of your perspective on that, and what it's like to work with kids and see that, and if that's had an influence on the way that you live and the way that you kind of see things in your life.
Hmm. Oh, definitely. I mean, as you mentioned in the intro, I'm a mom. I have two young girls, one Saber, who's going to be 3 in July, and Skylar is going to be 6 months this month. So they are my loves. They're my, they're my biggest accomplishment out of everything that I've done. Having these two girls, they make me so happy. But absolutely, I mean, having a toddler, they don't give a crap about anything. I mean, my daughter is extremely kind and extremely she's empathetic for a 2-year-old, but at the same time, the light of switch, she can shift and just doesn't care. We'll put a tutu on and her tap shoes and sunglasses and just dance. You know, doesn't matter what's going on in the world. I could be watching the news and see some, horrendous story or something's going on in the world, and then I shift my attention to my girls and they're just laughing and just carefree. There is no better medicine than being with kids. And I mean, that's been, as you mentioned, being an OT and working with kids, they just, some things that they'll say will get you out of your funk. Or you always have to, no matter what's going on in the world or what's going on in your personal life, when you shift into work, especially working with kids, you're focused on them. And that could be, the best thing for anybody to, who's going through a hard time, to be able to kind of get out of that and, listen to what they have to say. Kids, you're right. Kids don't, they're innocent. They're carefree. They don't stress about money and school. How am I going to pay my car? How am I going to pay rent? They're not worried about those things. They're worried about is, when is my show coming on? Or, I why don't you have this type of pasta? And why is it in a blue bowl and not a purple bowl? That's their stressor. And I can't tell you how many times a day I just laugh. And I mean, what better medicine is that, right? Because some of the things that come out of, my daughter's mouth, for example, are just hysterical.
Yeah.
I just, she's only had a 2-hour nap, not a 2 hour and 15 nap. And that 15 minutes, I'm going to cry on the floor because I didn't sleep an extra 10 minutes, or something like that. Like, it's comical. It is. But at the same time, they teach you so much about life. And, as that post, which was just a repost, something I saw, I thought it was kind of funny. But, reading through it, it's like, yeah, people throughout your years are going to tell you no, like, no, you're not good enough, or your resume doesn't have this qualification, things like this. I think it's good, and I'm going to apply for this job anyway, or I'm going to do this. That's a perfect example of how, like, a toddler will think. They say no, well, I say yes, right? um and just kind of dance it off. Be yourself. I think one of the statements, one of the phrases that I use for my daughter all the time is "do you." Like, do you, kid? Be yourself. Um, and some of it, I will be honest, like, I feel like a hypocrite sometimes because it's taken me a really long time to, find my identity. And I was always this. I was always, by the book and follow the rules. And so it's been hard to kind of, have that confidence to be yourself, to be, when you're in a group with a bunch of people, how do you stand out? How do you do those things? And having two young girls, like, this is my perfect opportunity to be able to teach them how to do that and to be that role model, and I think there's no better way, especially nowadays, when the world is the future is female, right? To inspire them and to let them know, like, you can do anything. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, right? So I think, we all have to act a little bit like toddlers, maybe not having the tantrums on the ground and things like that, but just, take those risks and not be so afraid, don't let what other people say and think of you determine your future, put your foot down and speak up for what you believe is right. I think that's just, no one could teach you better than a toddler.
I
And
love
I think
that.
any parent of a toddler will understand, what I mean by that. But they also need boundaries, and they also
Yeah.
need some limits set on them too. So I don't want to say that everything she says is right, because sometimes, we are the parent and we do know what's best, but I just want to put that out there.
Well, I'm making it a goal to be more like a toddler from now on. No tantrums, but when someone says
Right,
no,
right.
I
Well,
say
we
yes.
all kind of, sometimes we do want to just scream. And
Yeah.
I think there's nothing wrong with that, but some of these tantrums are pretty full blown. So
So kind of related to that, if you could go back and give your younger self advice, what would it be?
again, great question. And I've said it, I think I just said it in this last little part here, is to not be afraid, to take bigger risks. That's been something, I think about a lot, actually, especially when I watch college gymnastics, for example. There were so many times I was just so nervous about performing and making a mistake, letting people down. And I put so much stress on myself that I laugh at now, because, just being an adult and living in an adult world with children and who get sick, and you have to make this big decisions and big financial decisions, as you get older, and all of these things that you go through. I say, how could I have, before a balance beam routine, felt like this is the hardest thing I'm ever going to do in my life? So I laugh at that now. Of course, when I was there, I felt like, okay, this is this routine is means the world, and whatever I do here is going to determine my future. We all think that, right? And we are all very much hard on ourselves. But if I can go back and just give college Daryl a hug and just say, look, this is not the hardest thing you're going to go through. Take a deep breath, have more fun. Don't let this routine determine who you are, and just relax. Relax a little bit and take bigger risks. I mean, I think, looking back, like, gymnastics took over my college experience for the most part. I mean, it determines my schedule. I had to stay an extra almost 2 semesters to be able to get in all the classes in order to graduate, because I couldn't do classes during that gym practice time.
Yeah.
So I had to shift for years, like, oh, I need to take this physics class, but it's at 2:30, and that's when I'm at gym. So I'll have to take that the summer that I'm not, competing, or, whatever. So and a lot of my teammates had to do that as well. We had to really shift our focus on gymnastics versus the academic portion of being a student athlete for some time, until our gymnastics careers were over. So I wish I got a little more involved in some things while I was in college. Whether it was different groups or different things outside of the gym, but I was a gymnast and that was my main focus. So I do wish I kind of broke out of my shell a little bit then and, got a little more involved in some other things. But looking back, you know, I did what I did and I don't have any regrets, really. I just, yeah, if I had a little more time, I wish I would have done a little bit more, but
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank
yeah.
you so much for coming on today. I really enjoyed our
Yeah.
conversation. And before we go, I do have one last question, or
Yes.
I guess one last request. You knew this was coming. All right, Daryl, let me hear your best dad joke.
Okay. So I have two because I was like again, whatever I do, I'm passionate and I have to plan. That's just who I am. So I was like Googling like different dad jokes and things like that. And then I'm coming up with an original here. My
All right.
husband actually said it. It was and it's lame, but that's a dad joke for you, right? So we were at a Passover Seder a couple of years ago from my dad's side of the family, and they have gefilte fish, which is like a, not my favorite thing, but it's
Yeah.
like a jelly like fish that goes around, right? And my husband wound up saying, "I'm gonna pass over the gefilte fish." Pretty funny, pass over, whatever.
Oh my
So
gosh,
that
I
was
love
that was
it.
one of the original ones I'm gonna, use. And then I have to do a from Michael Scott from The Office. Um, I'm not superstitious. I'm just a little stitious. It's one of my favorites. So I had to take something from The Office, one of my favorite shows. So
I love them both. Both
I love it.
top quality dad jokes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl.
I appreciate it so much, Ellie. I really do. I hope, I give you all the credit in the world for, coming up with this podcast. And I hope people, listen and follow, and best of luck with, all the other guests as well.
Thank you.